Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to HR Florida and ESGR's Lunch and Learn. My name is Troy Clements, and I get the pleasure to serve as Vice President of the HR Florida State Council. So thank you for joining us for today's call. In just a few minutes, Rita Broadway will be joining us from ESGR, and Marty Bryson, who's the President of HR Florida. As we go through today's session, this is a live session, so feel free to leave your comments in the chat, and we will get to those comments in short order. But before we begin, I've got a quick video to show. And this video kind of gives you the top line of what ESGR is all about. So take a look, and then right after this...
All volunteer military is 2.1 million strong. These extraordinary men and women serve both overseas in the defense of our nation and in our local community when called upon. A critical part of today's military is the National Guard and the Reserve, which make up 40% of the joint force. Because members of the Guard and Reserve serve in both the military and civilian workforce, they need the support of their employers when they deploy for weeks or months at a time, often on short notice. At the same time, these patriotic employers face their own challenges as they support the needs of the nation. Enter ESGR, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. Established in 1972, the main role of ESGR is to help employers understand, value, and support their employees' military service.
We work in every way we can creatively and proactively to reach out to our nation's employers.
From seminars to educational experiences like boss lifts, ESGR consistently helps employers understand what it's like to serve in the military.
So it's a learning opportunity for them, and that's what we hope to accomplish through all the things that we do.
In this way, ESGR exposes employers to the unique experience and capabilities that Guard and Reserve members bring to the workplace.
Hiring people who serve in the Guard and Reserve is not just the right thing to do, it is also the business smart thing to do. When you know that they are dependable, they are team leaders, they are mission focused, that's a good hire as far as I'm concerned, and I don't care what business you're in.
Veterans have a proven track record of success. So whether you're talking about a military spouse or you're talking about someone in the Guard or Reserve, companies recognize that veterans are a great hire.
While ESGR is a voice for the members of the Guard and Reserve, it also very much works for the nation's patriotic employers.
And we're the voice for employers within the Department of Defense. So we advocate in both ways. We help to strike a healthy balance there where we're a benefit to both.
A key benefit of ESGR is that it offers free services, helping employees and employers understand USERRA, the Federal Employment Protection Law for service members, and mediating USERRA cases are both very important parts of ESGR's mission.
ESGR is important because they serve as that interface to help us to make sure that we're fulfilling our obligation. It's been a great partnership for us.
ESGR also provides a suite of recognition opportunities, including the Patriot Award, the 7 SEALs Award, and the prestigious Secretary of Defense Employer Support Freedom Award.
We think it's important to tell the nation the great things that American employers are doing. We're really blessed in this country to have that kind of support coming from the nation's great employers.
This employer-employee relationship is so important that in celebration of ESGR Week, a presidential proclamation stated, "Because of the vital importance of our National Guard and Reserve forces to our national security, those who employ them are key partners in the defense of our nation." While ESGR provides education and mediation, what makes ESGR unique is that it is made up of over 3,000 unpaid volunteers.
We're volunteers. We are not paid a single dime to go out and do what we do. And to my ESGR volunteers, it is an honor and a privilege for me to have the opportunity to serve with you.
If you are a member of the Guard or Reserve, or if you are a company or organization of any size that has employees that are a member of the Guard or Reserve, ESGR is ready to serve you. And if you want to stand for those that stand for us, join our volunteers that make a real difference each day. Visit esgr.mil to learn more, because we all serve.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I see great comments in the chat, and I have a very strong affinity for the Guard and Reserve as well. My brother served in the Army, and then once he retired once he left active duty, he was in a National Guard battalion. So, wanted to talk with Rita today. We have been in ongoing conversation for quite a while about how the HR Florida volunteer communities could partner with the ESGR volunteer communities and bring synergy between the two organizations. And this week, with Veterans Day on Saturday, what better time to highlight those that serve our country. So, Rita, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And the video is so compelling. It tells the vision of ESGR, why it exists. And so today I really want to focus on why it is so important in our local communities and what our local chapter members can do to get involved. One of the things that I have found is that there's not a military base in every community. And when in those communities where there is a military base, everyone is very, very focused on military spouses, veterans, etc. But in talking with you, there's a reservist center in almost every city as well, but they're kind of hidden, and so wanting to work with how do we get the word out to others about those hidden populations.
Marty, I can't thank you enough for inviting me to have this great opportunity to speak to the HR Florida and SHRM personnel, and then also I know we have ESGR volunteers in Florida on the call as well, and even some people from our national headquarters. So this truly is a great opportunity for us to kind of share information and really develop more of a collaborative effort. I mean, we're both volunteer organizations, and when we do what we do because we love and have a passion for what we do. So I want to thank you so much to help us get the word out. But I want to go back in history just a little bit. And ESGR was actually started actually established in 1972. And if we remember the climate in this country in 1972, we were coming, off of the Vietnam War and the draft. And in order for the military to continue to be successful, our congressional leaders and the president at the time realized that we were going to have to rely on an all volunteer force. We weren't going to be able to rely on the draft anymore. And in order to develop an all volunteer force, whether it be the Army or any of the services, we were going to have to figure out a way to encourage young, mostly men at the time, but men and women to serve. And they were going to have to come from communities. Because our leadership realized that in order for us to have a total force, an all volunteer force, we needed to have community involvement and we needed to build up our reserve components. We weren't going to be able to rely on the active component completely. And in particular, the Army realized that, if we're going to do that, we've got to have a relationship with employers. We've got to have a relationship within communities because we don't want to deploy a unit out of a small community and not have that support and that relationship. It breaks down the employers, it breaks down the community, and it just creates some adversity that we don't want to deal with. So that's one reason that ESGR was established, is so that we could in fact develop that relationship and build that understanding with our employers about what our reserve component service members do and when they do it, and just have that dialogue and that understanding. And to your point, we do have reserve component service members of all the services in communities throughout the entire Florida, which I can speak to, but throughout the entire country. And in some cases, they're the only connection that community has to a military component. And so what we do in ESGR is we not only tell their story by going out and visiting with employers, doing briefings, letting them know what kind of military footprint they have in that community, because when we were doing a lot of activity with the wars, and you saw on TV all the departures and the welcome home ceremonies, and everybody was standing up in airports and clapping when our service members were coming off of airplanes in uniform. We're still doing that every day. I mean, we still are mobilizing and deploying service members every day, and you just don't see it because it's not of the magnitude it was before. So ESGR is that entity with our volunteers throughout the entire country and the U.S. territories that helps tell that story and continue to tell that story to the community. And that's why we look for opportunities to have the relationship with our SHRM brethren. In particular, this is a relationship that's been years in the making, and we are so appreciative of that. But we can help carry that word and have that voice that reminds people that we have service members still serving every day.
Wonderful, wonderful. HR Florida has projects in place this year. One is called Pay It Forward. And we're really hoping that through this conversation today, we can start with the various chapters, maybe adopting a reserve center and working closer with them, because you're right. The fanfare as missions leave and come back just isn't as big as it used to be, but it's still there.
Yes.
And so just because these as I call them, the hidden population is coming and going doesn't mean that they shouldn't have as much recognition as any of the other deployments.
Yes.
So
yes.
we will be working with our local chapters on how to partner with their local ESG volunteer. So can you explain the volunteer structure in ESGR? Is this military members who have joined ESGR? Do you have to be a military member?
Let me kind of give you an idea. We have an ESGR committee. They call the organization in each of the states, and then we are in the 4 territories as well. So we're international, but we're a volunteer-based organization. There's a small core of individuals up in headquarters. Washington, D.C. We are under the Department of Defense. So we are an agency under the Department of Defense. And having said that, there as a volunteer, there is a little more structure to what we have when it comes to what we can do and some of the rules and regulations. But we're organized by committee. And of course, I'm the committee chair, and then the committees are structured with kind of like a corporation structures, perhaps a division or a section that focuses on military outreach, focuses on employer outreach, focuses on volunteer management, and then also focus on the ombudsman program, which is the USERRA and the law. So we have a structure that's kind of that way. In Florida, we in fact are so spread out. Sometimes I don't think people realize how much geography Florida really has. But we structure it a little bit with some command and control structure so that we can take care of our volunteers. But we've got volunteers all over the state. There is no prerequisite to become an ESGR volunteer. You don't have to be a veteran. All that we ask is that you come with a passion to serve, both on the employer side and on the military side. And you don't have to have any experience. ESGR has a great training program. We have volunteers who have come into our program with no knowledge of the military, perhaps very little experience. And there's a great training program that our volunteers undergo that just gives them the background information on how to be a volunteer and how to relate to employers. But what we look for is those individuals that really our whole purpose is to get the message out and to educate employers and service members on what ESGR is and how to collaborate with their employer, what their responsibilities are and the rules are when it comes to the law. And so anyone who has a passion to do that, a passion to serve, a passion to give back, similar to the volunteers that you have in SHRM, Marty. I mean, we all do this because there's something other than, the paycheck at the end of the day that drives us to get up in the morning and get on a webinar during our lunch hour. And give that time. So it's people who want to learn, who want to give back, and frankly, people who really want to make a difference.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good to know. I was apprised that Florida is the only state in that has a military base for all branches of the military, including the Coast Guard. So this is Florida has lots of military activity, lots of activity. So that really does impact employers here in the state when people are deployed or when people are leaving the military and looking to settle. If they've been at a base and like the area, they're likely to start their civilian life there. So how does ESGR work with employers to keep them apprised of their responsibilities under USERRA? I keep talking about how these guardsmen and reservists are kind of like a hidden population. Many of them, almost all of them, have a full-time job somewhere else, and they'll come to their employer and say, oh, by the way, I'm being deployed tomorrow, next week. Sometimes it's a very, very short notice.
Well, and Marty, it's teaming with organizations like SHRM and the human resource population that really is the strength and of what we do here in Florida. And I'm going to speak to Florida specifically. But we have a mission to try and engage every employer that we can. I mean, it's a lofty mission. I mean, you all know probably better than most on this call how many employers, both small business and large business, that we have in Florida, and it's tremendous. And there are over 36,000 reserve component service members in Florida.
Wow.
And 36,000. That doesn't include the active component.
Mhm.
Tremendous population from all the and to your point, from all the services. So the goals that we have are pretty lofty, and frankly, we can't do it with the team of a little over 90 volunteers that I have here in the state of Florida. We really have to rely and collaborate with organizations such as SHRM, for one, to get the word out like we are today. I mean, everybody on this webinar is somehow connected to either HR Florida and SHRM or ESGR. So by listening and seeing the video and hearing what we're talking about and reading the comments in the chat, our goal is that those individuals then go back to their respective employers or where they work as HR professionals and say, hey, ESGR out here we can come out and do a briefing with the boss. We can do a professional development session. We can sit down with you, the senior leaders in your civilian in the corporation, with some senior leaders from the military, and you can sit across the table from each other and talk about the challenges that both entities have. And that benefits everybody. I mean, it benefits the community because you're putting those individuals together so they understand and understand the challenges of both. It benefits, the military individuals because then their employers understand what's going on and how they can be supportive. And it benefits the employer because then they've got a better understanding of, the challenges that a reserve component service member has with balancing a family life, a civilian career, a military career, and then, trying to carve out a little bit of time for some fun. So it's the collaboration and the relationships that we develop with specifically SHRM that is helping us get that word out. And it's all about educating and letting people know. We do have a mission to help mediate. And when employers and service members may not be seeing eye to eye on what they're doing when it comes to deployments and mobilizations, and frankly, I tell my ombudsman director that we need to get those inquiries down to zero. Because that means we're much more successful and much more innovative in getting that word out so that those events don't happen. So, but it's a great teaming effort that we have to just to showcase what our great employers do to support our military, for sure.
Well, as HR Florida is putting its strategic plan together for 2024, we really are going to put a focus on partnering with ESGR. Those you talked about the Omnibuds program. Who better to help to mediate conflict on a leave of absence than an HR professional who understands the business side of it and could help. So we're going to put a challenge out for our local chapters to get information about the omnibus program and how they could help ESGR in that area. We also are going to really be focusing on how the chapters can connect with their local area representatives so that they know who that person is.
Yes, yes, yes. That would be great, and that's something that we are striving to do as well. Is to have that go-to person identified. That if there's a problem, a question, and because you're a great venue when you do your monthly meetings or your events, that invite that ESGR person, and they can they develop that relationship and that partnership that then works to everybody's benefit. And then by also inviting perhaps some military personnel and maybe their spouse into a chapter meeting to say, okay, this is an individual that's out here in the community. Let's just hear about what they're doing. Let's hear about what's on their mind. And then that also then gives the employers and the HR professionals an idea of some of the challenges they might have. So it's just a great opportunity for us to tell both our stories, and the winners are the employees and the service members.
Definitely, definitely. I had the distinct honor of being in Fort Lauderdale this summer during Fleet Week and going to a military breakfast where they were honoring employers for really promoting and supporting reservists. And it opened my eyes. I never realized that there were people that were in all areas of the workforce. There were lawyers and doctors and a municipal judge that are also very active in the reserves. And I also learned that the reserves have an entire organizational structure, as does the active branches. I had always thought until that breakfast that the reserves and the National Guard were simply individuals that were called up to support the active military. And I learned during that no, they have their own missions, their own deployments, and their own separate structures.
Yes.
So very, very eye-opening for me.
Yes. And that's one thing that another element to the ESGR volunteer and what ESGR can bring to that table. And that's educating not only on the ESGR specifics when it comes to employment and USERRA, but then we see both sides of the equation. We see what's going on in the military and we see what's going on in the civilian world, and we can bridge that information gap. So we can, we have the capability to, come out to a professional development session at an employer and really kind of tell them what's going on in the state of Florida when it comes to the Reserve and National Guard, and how many individuals are currently mobilized. I mean, right now, nationwide, we have over 31,000 reserve component service members mobilized. And a lot of people don't know that. But then also kind of explaining a little bit, Marty, about what the military personnel can bring to the table when it comes to employment. And the skill sets they can bring, and all of that, leadership skills and the discipline, and then help them, navigate through the employment process and the hiring process and that type of thing. So it's just the ability to share that information and let everybody know, both on the employer side and the military side, what we can bring to the table.
Oh, definitely, definitely. While I was at that military breakfast, there were actually some awards given to employers for their outstanding support of their reservist. Can
Yes.
you talk to, I believe it is the Patriot Award and the Freedom Award?
Yes, out of all of the missions that we have in ESGR, this is the one that I get the most fun doing, and I would venture to say that most of our ESGR volunteers feel the same way, and that's to recognize great employers. And frankly, ESGR has one of the most comprehensive and best employer recognition programs, I think, throughout the entire country. I'm a little bit prejudiced, but we do a great job of saying thank you. We in the military who have served in the military, as part of our military service, we're used to getting recognitions in front of formations, and we get awards for doing a good job and recognition on projects and that type of thing. But there's really nothing similar to that in the civilian world. One of the great things we do is we recognize employers, and the service member employee gets the opportunity through the Patriot Award to say thank you for what you do. And it is probably one of the most rewarding opportunities and recognitions that we can do for the employer. And they go online, they fill out the form. The process is very simple, and our headquarters staff puts together a beautiful certificate. But it's a way to say thank you for being a patriotic employer. Thank you for recognizing that when I had to go away and mobilize and deploy, that I didn't have to worry about my civilian job. I didn't have to worry about my family because you were helping my wife or spouse take care of everything while I was gone. And it's amazing how something so simple can have such a dramatic impact. And when we do, particularly the Patriot Award presentations, it's not just we try and make them very rewarding for everybody. So it's not just the service member and the ESGR volunteer and the employer awardee or recipient. We make them very big deals. And we invite the rest of as many people from the employer's company that can come in. If we can get some senior leadership from the service that the service member is from, we do that. Frankly, virtual has allowed us to do Patriot Awards, Marty, where the entity may be in a rural community here in Florida, but you've got the corporate president zooming in to be able to see this. And so it's just a tremendous opportunity to say thank you to those employers. In fact, we have a kind of a running saying in ESGR that is, when we do a Patriot Award, if we don't make somebody cry while we're presenting the award, then we probably haven't done what we need to do. But it truly is the best way to say thank you to the employer and recognize them for what they do. Because sometimes they just don't have that opportunity. We have other awards as well that go to the company, and there are several levels of that. But in speaking to the Freedom Award, that is the premier Department of Defense award. ESGR runs the process for that, but it is a Department of Defense award that recognizes the most outstanding employers in the country. And each year there are only 15 chosen.
Wow!
Out of thousands of applications, and the uniqueness of this award is that they have to be nominated by a service member. So the company itself can't put itself in for the award. It is actually someone who works at the company that has to that is able to put them in for the award. So that's the beauty of it, because it starts from the grassroots level. But it is the premier award, and I'm so honored to say that for the last 2 years, Florida has had 2 winners. We had a winner this year, and we had a winner last year. Just the beauty of the trophy and the weight of the trophy is spectacular. But it recognizes those employers that not only that really do go above and beyond helping their employees and having a really what I call a reserve component friendly human resource policies. Not only is it about doing the things that you have to do under USERRA, But they go above and beyond. They include family members in the celebrations, the holiday celebrations. If the service member is gone, they're mowing yards, they're fixing appliances, they're including those individuals as part of the company family. They have recognition ceremonies and recognize not only the veterans but those currently still serving, and thank them for their service. Some of our nominees, especially in law enforcement, have special pins that they allow the officers to wear that recognize them as a reserve component service member. So it is the premier award, and we're so fortunate here in Florida to have some people competing now as well. We are in the height of the Freedom Award nomination season. It closes on 31 December. So my shout out to anybody as an HR professional, if you have reserve component service members and you think you're doing a great job with supporting that, and you might put a bug in their ear to have you nominated as for a Freedom Award nomination. So thank you for mentioning that, because it's very rewarding in what we do for ESGR. Sure is.
So thank you for sharing all of that. The local SHRM chapters are truly a grassroots effort. And so all of the things that you have talked about today, things like the Patriot Award and giving that presentation and making it a hoopla, making it a big deal. I'm thinking out loud that this would be a great opportunity for our chapters to get involved with their local rep to make that celebration even bigger, to bring it into a chapter meeting or a special event where chapter members are present.
Yes, that's a great idea, Marty. That really is, because it exposes more people to the great employers and the great HR professionals supporting those employers and the service members and the ESGR volunteers. So that is a great suggestion. It really is.
And things that one employer is doing very well that another one may be able to adopt.
Yes, very true.
All about.
Go ahead.
It's all about sharing best practices.
It really is. And there's so much out there that people don't know about. And there are so many, what we try and do also in ESGR is, not only educate on the USERRA, but educate employers on how to build those great HR practices. Sometimes it can be overwhelming for them, but if we visited with another employer and they've kind of cracked the code, sometimes it's not about making large leaps. It's maybe making the smaller steps. And so sharing that information, it's a win-win for everyone. It really is.
Great. We really want, after today's conversation, to really kickstart and get people energized about what they could do at the local level. And I heard you say that employers get involved and they help the families when the military member has been deployed. Are these things that if our local chapters got involved connected with the reserve centers, that we could also go out and help? What is it that reserve centers need?
I mean, that is a great question. And the answer is yes, there is that kind of opportunity, especially if it's an entire unit that goes out. The entire unit mobilizes and deploys, because there's typically a detachment that's left behind, but they do have family readiness groups. So there is a structure there that takes care of the families. But frankly, they're always looking for those opportunities and volunteers to help, to help put on the Christmas party and really, frankly, help the life, especially with children, young children, or and those types. Help that sense of normalcy. It's very disruptive when a service member, departs and is gone for 6 months to a year. And so what we try and do through family readiness, and I can speak to from my personal experience with that, is to make those opportunities more normal, so that it's not such a traumatic experience. So yes, there are opportunities certainly for SHRM chapters and volunteers to talk to that reserve component commander in that facility and talk to them about where they could use some help with holiday activities, or a work weekend when they're going out and mowing yards, or helping with taking care of kids and grocery shopping and that type of thing. So there are certainly, and what we can do is help facilitate that, frankly, with the ESGR volunteer and the service member and the unit that's right there. Absolutely. You can see my background, perhaps, and the banner. It says "We all serve," and I think that's just a mantra that ESGR, and I'm so proud of that, because it's very inclusive. I mean, it includes everybody in the country and everybody who wants to support our military, and to make sure that we don't take it for granted. Because of all the stuff that we see currently with what's going on in the world, we need to remember that there are American men and women, who are serving in every part of the world right now, and some we may not even know about, but they mobilize and deploy every day. So you bet, any opportunities that we can partner together and collaborate on events, I certainly welcome that, Marty, and so do my volunteers.
Wonderful. As I said, we're in our strategic planning season now for both HR Florida and for the local chapters. And we have to put initiatives together. Part of the chapter and council level shape is that you come up with an initiative. And under our workforce readiness core leadership area is working with military and working with military centers, whether it's bases, reserve centers, and otherwise. So this is a great learning opportunity today for chapter leaders to understand things that they could do that may be new and different to their chapters. So that is very good to hear that these opportunities exist. A lot of things that we have heard in the past that HR chapters were doing with military bases were things like resume writing, etc. So what kind of programs does ESGR have that help both the military members and the spouses transition from that military structure into a civilian structure?
ESGR doesn't specifically have that in our wheelhouse. So we used to have a program where we actually had Heroes to Hire, and we actually were, we were in employment. We actually got into the weeds of, interviews and matching people up with employers and that type of thing. What we do now is we talk to employers about the skill sets that military service members have and can bring to the table, both the spouses as well. We can't leave out the spouses when we talk about this. But what we do is then we will work with some nonprofits, and then with also the Florida National Guard has a employment support specialist program, and their specific duty is to work with service members, and the Florida Guard, it's not specific just to Army and Air Force. They will work with all the services, but they'll actually work with individuals who are looking for employment or, better employment, service members. And then they will, they also have employer contacts. So we link them up together. We link the service member up with the ESP, then who can talk to the employer. The Army Reserve has a similar program, and it's called the Public-Private Partnership operation, and it's P3O. And here in Florida, we have two employees who work that program, and that's specifically what they do. They visit reserve centers, Army Reserve centers. They've got contact with employers, and then they marry those up as well. There are other nonprofits that we refer them to, service members to, and employers to, if they're looking for that matchup. But the piece that SHRM and HR Florida can, and the chapters may be able to help us with, is sometimes when you're transitioning from the active component into civilian workforce, and you still want to stay in the reserve component because you want to finish out your retirement, sometimes it's very difficult to transfer that military language into civilian language. And you're very skilled at what you do, but it's just and sometimes using a program that you can find on the computer just doesn't have that personal touch. You really do need to have someone sit down with you. So that's an initiative that we would like to explore with the chapters in SHRM, the SHRM chapters. Is there a mechanism, or is there a process that we can use, and we could work out the details once a quarter, once however, that we can, perhaps refer some service members that are struggling a little bit with, to the local SHRM chapter and say, hey, here's the point of contact. They can sit down across the table from you and have a conversation. Because I've been on webinars with some of your great SHRM people, Marty, and I know there are some great people out there who know how to do that, frankly, in a fairly short amount of time. But then can kind of coach them and give them a little mentoring on how to do that. And because that then helps the employer. It gives and they may not be able to find the right fit, but it gives the service member and the spouse the confidence. And we do have a pilot program that we've talked about with the Jacksonville SHRM, to where a service member who's actually looking for employment or actually looking for better employment comes to a chapter meeting and gives a 5-minute elevator speech about who they are, what they're looking for, what their skills are, and that type of thing, and then get some feedback. May get an offer right there. I mean, just giving that familiarity and making that connection just brings rewards to both entities. The employers are looking for good employees. We've got military folks who are looking for jobs. However we can facilitate that link up is a benefit to everybody.
Great. I was fortunate enough to hear George W. Bush speak a couple of years ago, and he was talking about military to civilian employment and resumes specifically. And he made the comment that there isn't a whole lot of opportunity in the civilian workforce for a sniper. But, so how do you translate those skills, which are highly, highly developed, into a civilian resume? And talked about attention to detail, talked about patience, talked about teamwork. And so I loved hearing that presentation, because it was, yes, a sniper is a very extreme job in the service, but translating that and how those skills are transferable if you know the language of both and how to translate them.
Yes. So, and that's where ESGR can kind of help, because if you're an HR professional who doesn't, have that level of detail, then we can, provide you with those insights and some of that terminology, so that it's not as foreign to the HR professional as it might be. Yes. So
yes. Before we get too far, we have thrown a lot of terms around today. Can you explain what is the difference between reserves and National Guard?
The reserve components, when you talk about reserve components, you that includes everything, the Guard and all of the reserve components. The National Guard is actually a state force, so it is under the command and control of the governor of that particular state. Some states have both Air Force and an Army component. We here in Florida, of course, have both of that. But there is a federal component to the National Guard when they're actually going on a federal mission. So they can actually be in two different roles, a state mission and a federal mission, depending on the operation that they're in. When you talk about the reserves, you're speaking more about their federal reserve. So you've got the Army Reserve, the Air Force Reserve, the Navy Reserve, the Marine Reserve, and then our Coast Guard. And so they're actually under a federal umbrella, actually paid for the federal government pays for them. The particular state that they reside in does not have command and control over them. And they are commanded and controlled by their particular component. And so I'm really glad you brought that up, because depending on the familiarity that people have with where they grew up and the community, they tend to group, especially the Army Reserve and the Army National Guard together, because the uniforms are the same. Frankly, if you don't look at the left side of the patch there to see whether it's National Guard or Reserve, or recognize a shoulder patch, you really, frankly, have no way of knowing what component they are in. And I just have to give a shout out because I know there are a number of people on this webinar that either reserve, currently serving in the reserve, have served in the reserve, and or the National Guard here in Florida. And I just have to give a shout out to the employers here in Florida. I mean, the National Guard in Florida, both Air and Army, is so busy. There is so much going on in Florida, whether it be the hurricanes, flooding, forest fires, and all of those entities that are specific to this state. That you deal with that on a daily basis as an employer. And then you also have the federal side of that, and how Florida is supporting some federal missions that they have going on. And I just have to give a shout out to the employers in Florida. You are so understanding and so supportive of the National Guard members in this state, because they're pulled in several different directions, and I just am so proud of the response of the employers here in Florida and how they support, particularly the Florida National Guard. It's amazing, and I know General Haas, the TAG, the Adjutant General, is very appreciative of that support. And we make sure that we carry his message, and he carries our message as he's out visiting with employers as well. So I just that was a perfect opportunity, Marty, for me to kind of give a shout out to the great employers here in Florida.
Well, thank you. I think what we have heard in this call today, that serving in the military impacts every single person in the community, because I've been reading the comments. People have served, people have family members that served, or they have a friend, or they have a neighbor, or they have a coworker. So this is something that our chapters can really this is going to resonate with our chapter members, because they all have a personal connection. And we've also heard today that the commitment to support the reserve centers or the military bases doesn't have to be big, that we can do some, we like to call it micro volunteer opportunities, a little thing that will have a big impact on someone else. And so really want to thank you today for sharing all of this with our audience that were able to be with us live, but also we are recording this presentation so that we can use it again and again, and that others who didn't have the time right now will be able to listen to it later.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Before we leave, we have a few more minutes. What do you think is the one thing that each one of us could walk away with today? What is there one thing that we could do as individuals that would make a difference?
I think some of the things we've talked about is just the awareness of how our Reserve and National Guard service members continue to serve this nation and maintain a separate civilian career, and the dedication and the selfless service that takes. And I have the greatest respect for them. I'm an Army Reserve veteran as well. And just to say thank you. And it's perfect that we've done this, Marty, frankly, the Thursday before Veterans Day. I mean, we are so appreciative of, and frankly, can never forget what our veterans, both who are no longer serving, and I know we have veterans on this call that still are in uniform, both HR professionals and Florida ESGR members, and some from other committees as well. It swells your heart. It really does, to be so appreciative of what we have received from our veterans and what they continue to give us every day, how they continue to serve, and it just makes you proud. It really does.
Well, we are so thankful that individuals such as yourself have served and that you continue to serve in this volunteer role to promote the mission and to promote awareness. That is the word that has resonated with me most today, is awareness. Each military service member employer relationship deployment is different. No two are alike. And so knowing that we have, as an employer, that we have resources where we can go out and get those specific details that are going to make a difference is such a wonderful tool for each of us as an HR professional to have. I know that in my role as an HR practitioner, I don't experience a deployment on a daily or even regular basis. So when I do have one, it's always good to brush up on exactly what is it that I need to do and what are the current best practices. So I love having the ability to reach out at any time to get that assistance.
That's what we're here for, and it truly is. And as our motto is, we all serve, and whatever we can do as ESGR volunteers to help you all serve your HR constituents is what we're here for. And it because we do make a difference. We make a difference in as an HR professional. You make a difference in people's lives every day. And we as HR or as ESGR volunteers make a difference in people's life every day as well. And so the collaboration and the relationship that we build, I mean, Marty, we can just take it to such great levels to reinforce the great things we have going on here in Florida, for sure.
Wonderful. You know, we want everyone to leave this webinar with feeling motivated and really having like an action idea for next steps for what individuals can do in their own communities. What do you recommend as the best way for our local chapters or individual HR practitioners to get in contact with their local ESGR rep? Is there a website, a repository?
The best way to do that is for probably you and I and an HR Florida leadership rep to sit down, and because we have them all over the state. And actually sit down and find out geographically would be my recommendation, just because that's a little easier, and see where there are pockets, and then we can match up the SHRM chapters with a couple of ESGR representatives, contact information, and have them do electronic introductions, via email, so they know who everybody is, and then they can be the go-to people. They can build a relationship, they can advise, they can support. And we have volunteers everywhere. So and we have volunteers who cover other areas. So there shouldn't be any shortfall if a particular entity or volunteer is not available. We can certainly figure out how to do that. Yeah, we don't want people, to your point, things change and the laws change, and the situations change, similar to the Family and Medical Leave Act. You almost have to have a PhD to be able to dissect all the nuances of that. We want HR professionals and employers, not to struggle. That's what we're here for, and to be able to explain that and to help them with those plans and processes. So that would be my recommendation. Is
all right.
Figure that out.
Well, we have an executive committee meeting this evening at 5:00, and so I will put that on our agenda so that our workforce readiness initiatives, we can have a page. We will work on building a page into the HR Florida website where we can list out the various contacts and help overlap our chapters and your volunteers and make that connections to build this synergy,
It sounds like a great plan.
Wonderful. Any final comments? I am so appreciative that you took the time today for this educational session. The comments that we have seen, it is been very well received.
Yes. And Marty, I want to thank you and your team as well. As I mentioned at the beginning, this has been a long time in the making.
Mhm.
There are ESGR volunteers who have been working on the relationship that ESGR has with SHRM for years and years and years. And
Yes.
each year we see this progress to another higher
Mhm.
level. And so it's just such a mutually beneficial relationship, and everybody wins when we team up together, because you're the guys and gals into the employers. You see it every day. You see the struggles that employees have, and we can present that solution, and then we see it on the other side with the military service members. So I'm very thankful that we were able to do this and kind of take it to the next level. And I'm so enthusiastic about what's going to happen next. And the way that we can continue to build on this, and the opportunities that we'll both have to pursue our goals. So thank you so much, and to everybody who took time out of their schedule to do this. Very, very appreciative. Looking forward to some more continued conversations.
Definitely. We will have additional ESGR partnerships throughout 2024, even if it is another event like this.
Absolutely.
So we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank each and every one of you that participated today. And Rita, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful week. And I challenge each of you to thank a veteran.
Thank you so much, Marty.
You're welcome. Bye.